And this is Ken Kraetzer in Washington, D.C. for CBSI, the Cartez Secure Connections Conference, and have a chance to talk with one of the morning panel speakers, Liz Braun of Vantiv. And Liz, great to see you. A very important meeting with the implementation of chip cards coming up in October.
Hi, nice to speak with you. Yes, we spoke this morning with MasterCard and several other panelists talking about what the EMV migration means to the merchant community, to the issuer community, and especially to the consumers, because this will be a change for consumers and their general behavior and activities when they're making payments in their everyday use. Vantiv is a payments technology company, and we've been at the forefront of EMV in terms of being one of the first U.S. acquirers to certify with the card brands for EMV in the U.S., also being one of the first U.S. acquirer to certify for the U.S. Common AID to allow debit transactions to work with an EMV chip card as well. We are working very closely with our merchant partners, enabling terminals for EMV capability in the small merchant space, so working with our large merchants to test and certify EMV, and we anticipate large proliferation of terminal enablement as we move toward the important October liability shift date and get closer to that important date.
That's right, a lot happening, and your company is in the forefront of this. Now, I understand that this is something, chip cards have been installed in Europe for a number of years, and what's driving this is trying to reduce fraud here in the United States for credit cards. Is this something that will help reduce fraud and expenses for banks?
So you're correct. Fraud has been an important driver of why we're moving toward EMV. U.S. is really the last developed market to move toward an EMV implementation. Canada completed their implementation a little over 3 years ago now. It's been in Europe for probably over a decade now. And we're moving towards this in order to help prevent counterfeit fraud as we see more and more fraud shifting to the U.S. market as a result of us not being enabled with EMV. So the EMV is intended to prevent and protect against counterfeit fraud. It's not the only solution that's important for merchants, and we talked to them quite a bit about a multiple approach to security around EMV, encryption, and tokenization to fully protect their systems from a breach, to protect them in the event that someone does breach their systems, that the data is useless. EMV will protect against counterfeit. The PIN with EMV protects against lost and stolen. And this is really important in the U.S. market as we are well aware of the number of breaches that did occur over the last several years. It's clear to note that EMV would not have prevented those from occurring, but it would have helped in the process because the counterfeit cards wouldn't have necessarily been able to be created as a result. But what's really important is a three-pronged approach and putting that additional security in place with full encryption and tokenization to protect that data, that if someone does breach their system, that the data is useless and they can't do anything with it.
Yes, and we heard about some of what Home Depot's efforts are to install new terminals. And just the overall concern, you spoke to this, of customers being able to use the terminals, understanding what to do. You said there's quite a bit of an education process that the industry is doing.
Yes, so with EMV, the process to complete the payment transaction will change. So in today's environment, everyone is very used to picking up their card, swiping it at the terminal, and sticking it right back in their wallet and putting it away. EMV will change that process. That requires the card to actually be inserted into a terminal, and it stays in the terminal throughout that transaction process. So there is some education that needs to happen. We think that the consumers will adapt to it fairly easily, but there is a lot of education that needs to happen up front to help them understand why we're moving to this EMV technology, what it means for them, why security of payments is so important to them, and how this new transaction process doesn't really change anything in terms of the actual payment experience. It shouldn't change it in terms of the payment experience, but the importance of the security around this and why this is such an important move for the U.S. market.
Absolutely. Liz Braun, maybe just tell us a little bit about your career. How long have you been with Vantiv?
Sure. Well, I've been with Vantiv for the last 14 years, all within our relationship management team. Most of that time focused directly with our large national customers, helping support them as they do major projects such as EMV, as well as many other things. I focus quite a bit around debit routing and security, as well as new opportunities for merchants such as EMV and education around the network rules and requirements.
And what part of the country are you originally from?
I'm from Louisville, Kentucky.
That's great. Liz Braun from Vantiv, thank you very much. Gave a great presentation. Points on the panel today about the new card chip program that's going to be installed, a big change for consumers coming up in October here at the Cartez Secure Connections meeting here in Washington, D.C. Good to see you.
Thank you very much.
This is Ken Kraetzer at the Cartez Secure Connections meeting in Washington, D.C. for CBSI Services.